Hi, we're back in the garage working on this old 2001 Porsche Boxster S. That's the 986 variant. In the prior video, we put a new exhaust system on from Fabspeed. Looks great, sounds great. We gained about 25 horsepower out of it, and I've been very pleased with it. This time, we're going back and we're going to do the intake side of the system to see what additional benefits that we can obtain. So let's take a closer look. Just to get our bearings of the car, the air intake system, as you know, is on the driver's side right in this area. The air intake system is currently removed. One of the things you'll hear from others is it's difficult to remove that air box. I can attest to that. It is difficult. To remove this air box, we lowered the engine about 1 inch. And so we lowered the front engine mounts and the left rear engine mount and dropped the whole thing down about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. This gave us a little bit more room. The second thing we did is we destroyed the old air box. I just took an oscillating saw and started cutting it out, and with a half hour of careful trimming, so I didn't cut any wiring or anything else, we were able to extract it cleanly. So this is the old system that we took out of the car. This is the new system that we're putting into the car. The biggest downside that I see right now is the old system is 8.5 pounds. The new system is just a hair under 11 pounds. So obviously we've put on 2.5 pounds, directionally incorrect if we're trying to go faster. However, if we make an additional, horsepower at about 7 pounds per horsepower, we don't have to make much more horsepower to offset that. But let's take a closer look at these. These are the two parts from Fabspeed. That's the air intake box, aluminum, light, seems to be well made. And that's the associated air cleaner and the metal inlet tube. This is what you get from Fabspeed. These two parts are from IPD. Now, the first part is the T that connects the air intake or the throttle body to the intake runners. Now, you need this part to get to the larger throttle body. This is a standard Porsche throttle body off a 911. I can't remember the exact diameter. But it does make a meaningful difference. You can see the old versus the new in its size. But to get to the larger throttle body, you need this junction. And then to get from this throttle body to that air intake, you need the tube. And so let's take a closer look at both of these. This is the junction from IPD. Now, I think it's a very robust system. However, I don't know. I needed it really to get to the throttle body. I don't know if it's going to make a lot of difference on the horsepower itself. We won't be able to determine how much is coming from the airbox and how much is coming from the larger throttle body and how much is coming from this joint, because it's all going to be one big shot. But you need this to put the whole system together. But let's take a closer look at this. First of all, the casting itself, I would call it average, but not great. It's a little rough around the edges. Their marketing is, even see on the outside of the casting, even this is just kind of amateur hour at best. One of the marketing points is they use these dimples. Those dimples are supposed to work just like the outside of a golf ball. When the air passes over there, it creates, instead of a laminar flow layer like you would have on most devices, or most surfaces, it's going to create a little bit of turbulence. Now, their argument is if with that turbulence along the surface edge, it's actually going to improve the flow. We do this on golf balls, right? We do it on golf balls because if you have a spin on the golf ball won't curve as much. Now, I'm not so worried about my air curving. I just want it to get through quickly and efficiently. And I would argue that if dimples really did improve the flow in an air intake system, that we would make the entire intake system dimpled. And we don't see that anywhere. So I think, quite frankly, the dimples are more marketing than anything. And this is the tube. Now, my two biggest beefs with this is that this part weighs about 3 pounds, and this original factory part weighs about 1 pound. And that 2 pound difference is directionally incorrect for what we're trying to do with the vehicle. The second piece is this tube. Now, this tube is very robust, and it's certainly not going to collapse, and it'll last a lifetime, I am sure. The downside is this tube, again, is 2.5 to 3 pounds. In fact, it's a little bit more than 3 pounds. This tube, the original factory one, is about a pound. So we can complain that, you know, this is plastic, but quite frankly, plastic can work really well. It's light and it gets the job done, and we're trying to minimize mass overall. So there you can see the mass, 8.5 pounds to 11 pounds. Let's get it installed and see what the results are. In my prior video segment, I complained about the quality of the casting of this IPD part. After I recorded that, I reached out to IPD and they were incredibly gracious, and they said that shouldn't be the case. So they FedExed me out or overnighted me a new IPD casting. You can see the difference between the two. There's the old, there's the new. The casting looks great on the outside. Let's take a look on the inside. The insides as well look much better. So regardless, thanks to Greg at IPD, I can say they're a stand-up company just trying to do right for the customer. Let's look at the final installation. Now, on this side, it looks a little rough around the edges. If you look inside of my engine compartment, I have removed all of the insulation around the engine compartment and also on the top of the hood that you can't see right now. And because of that, the Fabspeed did not seal entirely around the perimeter. Right? And it's primarily just because I removed the insulation. So for that reason, there is duct tape around the perimeter of the Fabspeed, and I also put a very expensive piece of 3/4 inch foam that's kind of wedged in there and taped down. In the end, you're just trying to get that thing as sealed as possible so that no warm air is going into the box. Here is the final IPD install with the tube. Down there in the corner, you can see the mass airflow sensor. If we walk around the vehicle, on the intake side, we've taken out the majority of anything that may block this. So if you pull out that plastic insert, which is easy to do, you can actually attach it from the top, from the standardized screw. But there is no standardized screw on the bottom, so I have it kind of temporarily held in here with duct tape. At some point in time, we'll have to figure out a better resolution of that, but you get to the point. You can see though where the actual air filter sits, a nice clean wide opening to get in there. And in fact, the opening to the left of the air filter so that air can get on the backside is actually larger just on the left than the original intake hole. So there's plenty of room for the air to move around and get inside the system. I want to highlight one issue that we ran into with the box. There's a light inside the air intake system, so the light you see is actually escaping out the side of the box, and the cover is on. This means that it's allowing a lot of warm air to get inside the airbox. We don't want warm air, we want cold air from outside the car. This is a manufacturing issue that needs to be rectified by Fabspeed. We are back at D&B Performance on a rainy Wednesday with the 986 on the rack. We're getting ready for a couple of dyno runs. We are now going to check if that new intake system from Fabspeed and IPD made a difference. We're going to run it exactly like before. It's about the same octane, 92 octane oxy fuel, relatively similar conditions, and the dyno adjusts for atmospheric pressure, etc., etc. So we're trying to get it back to a pure play to look at just the differences of the intake system to see if we can find any more horsepower. Here we go. All right, this is the part we're all waiting for. What were the results? The blue line is stock, the red line is the exhaust system only, and the green line is the system with exhaust and the new intake system we've been talking about. We were hoping to find 10, 20, maybe even 25 horsepower. The reality is we didn't find that. In fact, we lost. First, let's look between 3,500 and 5,000 RPMs. The area between the red line and the green line up high, that's lost horsepower, that's lost torque. We lost roughly 15 to 20 horsepower in that area. When we move to the right, which is higher RPMs, you'll see they converge, and the green line might be slightly above the red line, so maybe you picked up 5-6 horsepower up high, but overall, the net horsepower gain was minimal to zero. Result, we're adding weight, we're losing horsepower. I don't recommend doing it.